What is going on, South by East fam? Welcome back to the intersection.
Yes.
Man, today we are dealing with some historic events. The former president, Donald Trump, has been found guilty on 30 counts.
34.
34 counts. Thank you. The numbers are important. On 34 counts. Hey, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, this is important. This is the first time that a U.S. president has ever been convicted, that we've ever had a felon running for office. He is still in the presidential race. John, what does this mean for us?
Yeah, what I look at a lot of times in conversations around historic moments is often the initial conversation is not the real conversation.
Okay.
And what I mean by this is the superficial conversation is going to be around. They're going to split up over political ideologies. If you're a Republican, you're going to maybe not everyone lean more towards, man, the system did him in, right?
Yeah,
and it was unfair. And there's some things around that. A lot of Democratic ideologies are going to say, man, he finally got it. Yeah, we're glad.
Right.
But I think if we stop there, no matter where people sit, that's too shallow of a conversation. And here's why. Most people are saying, should he be disqualified from running as president because now he has been convicted of a felony? And I said, that's not the conversation that my mind raced to in this. The conversation my mind raced to is, in this country, being a full citizen has meant having the right to vote.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we look at that, and here's the deal. This hits hard with me because I just got back from vacation. On vacation, I got to visit two former presidents'
Like homes.
homes.
Yeah.
And one of them being Thomas Jefferson. And if you know the role that he played in writing our founding document. So when our country started, it was for white men who owned property that were considered full citizens, right? And over time, we have recognized that Thomas Jefferson himself said that when it came to slavery, that we had the wolf by the ear, right? We don't know whether to keep hold of it or to let it go. There's tension at both sides. I got feelings about that too.
I got feelings about Jefferson in general.
Yes. But one of the things I looked at over time, our country has began to make corrections. But one of the areas we used to look at is we call our system of corrections one of rehabilitation. But often it has truly been a system of scarlet letters and a penal system. And what that means is there's no room for retribution once you get a felony a lot of times, because it limits where you can work, it limits where you can live, it limits and eliminates in a lot of cases your right to vote, and thus you cease to be a full citizen. And I believe it has stayed this way for so long because someone at the right social level hasn't been affected by it. And so now that a former president and maybe now a future president has been convicted of a felony, I am hoping that the conversation then goes to, how can we have a president who is a convicted felon but can't have employees who work for his staff who also have felonies? Something around that seems unequal.
Right.
And there is no way to keep it separate and even equal. It's just unequal. And so I'm hoping that the conversation grows. And also, what I want to push against my more liberal friends with, because a lot of my more liberal friends are for things like eliminating cash bail and looking for more rights for former felons. Well, you can't be out protesting for more rights for former felons and then using our former president's felonies to smear his character.
Yeah.
Because that fights against it. So that's why I said the conversations around historic moments like that, not only do they lead to deeper conversations, they reveal our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm seeing in this conversation.
Yeah. It becomes a culture conversation. Most people don't know this. I, at one point in time, committed a felony. Was in high school, had some stuff happen with medicine, was in a weird place, went somewhere, decided to shoplift. Turns out the CD that I tried to shoplift was a deluxe Snoop Dogg special deluxe limited edition CD. So it was over $20. Didn't make it out of the store with it. Guy grabbed me by the shoulder. He's like, what you doing? I was like, I'm not doing nothing. And he was like, come on with me. I had to go back. I'm sitting in the room with the guy that's over security. And he's talking to me, and I was like, I don't know why I did what I did. Man, I'm sorry. I wouldn't do this, man. Just let my mama know I'm sorry, blah, blah. And he's like, man, bro, I wish I didn't have to press charges, but we've already called the police. They're coming. It's over. Man, I'm really sorry for you. I was like, it's all right. I come and meet the guy. The guy's, meet the police officer. He tells me, hey, we can either do the walk of shame or you can come out with us. You don't seem like you'd run. I'm like, man, I'll go out with you. Everybody treated me well. Got to someone who's in the DA's office, and they're like, hey, we give you this thing called a diversion. And they're like, man, we really don't feel like you should have this felony on your record. And what she started telling me was, because having a felony on your record is like throwing your life down the drain. She's like, you're going to have a hard time getting a job. You're not going to be able to vote. This could impact some of the things that you want to do at college. Yeah. Like, this is going to be something that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. We don't want this to happen to you. And most people who hear that story go, wait a minute, you are going to become a felon for taking a $20 CD? Mm-hmm. Yep. Regardless of the circumstances, regardless of any of that, like my ability to vote. And when I worked for the Kansas Democratic Party, just that year prior, I had gone around and met people in my community and asked them, like, hey, ask them a few questions. It's like, well, who are you going to be voting for this year? And they were like, oh, fam, I can't vote. I'm a felon. And I was like, some of those people I met knew more about the political process than the people who worked at the Democratic office.
And so here's the deal.
But they lost their ability to vote.
Here's what you need to hear. In that comment right there, right, most of us would look at a situation like yours and say, no way should a kid become a felon for a $20 CD. And no way should a kid who makes a mistake have this felon for the rest of their life. And a lot of people who hold a more conservative political ideology are saying, man, if you look at the track record, most people who commit this crime don't get any jail time. They don't get charged with this. Or there's a lot of people who have employees who lied about a document that don't get brought to this level of trial, so they're struggling with this. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times we can identify things that are coming to us, and we can have grace and mercy. But what transforms our hearts and minds is when we start to look at those whose stories differ from ours, and we're able to have a similar type of grace and mercy with them. Now, there's just a lot of things in this, and it's really difficult, right? It is a really difficult situation. There's a lot of conversations, but I think we waste time and we argue too shallowly. Yeah. When we focus and stop just at the surface level conversation. And so in this one, I wish that both my conservative and my liberal brothers and sisters, people on both sides of the aisle, because I don't affiliate with either political party. Yeah. I'm of that right-end camp. Yeah. And that they would be able to band together to get more rights for those with felonies that have paid their debts to society. And once you have made restitution, I believe you should get another chance. And I know some are going to go to, well, at what level? Yeah. At what level of crime should you still get an opportunity? And I'm like, at the level, at whatever you pay restitution, that a jury of your peers and then a judge that was appointed or elected, depending on where you're at, says that this is your penalty for that, and this is how restitution is going to look.
Yep. And that's
yeah.
the real conversation that needs to be had is our system, and you laid this out really well earlier, talking about how our system has been one of scarlet letters and penal, with no penal retribution towards people, instead of allowing them opportunities to reconcile. Recidivism rates in the United States are unbelievably high. Our prison systems, the way that we treat people for doing crimes, often leads to them committing more and worse crimes.
Yeah.
Getting a felony is like a gateway drug to becoming a criminal. It is imperative that we as a society start looking at what this means. And I hope that some people see this and say this is ridiculous. Say that there's no way it doesn't make sense with the way that we treat felons that a felon should be running for office. But I hope they don't, like you said, I hope they don't stop there and they start thinking like, but it is happening. It's exactly what's going on now. And we have to start looking at the way that we look at not just systems, but the way that our systems look at people.
And for our friends who are fighting for the rights of those who are formerly incarcerated, let's not be so short-minded that when light and air is brought to a topic that we care deeply about, we ignore the opportunity that sits in front of us because of the disdain we have in our heart for who's bringing light to the topic.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to caution about as we get ready to close out is this. Let's also be slow on comparing people to Jesus.
Oh, you went there.
God took on flesh to become like us, to identify with us. We should be very careful when we read ourselves into Scripture.
Yes.
And when we read our stories into, and this is Christ's story. And I'm seeing that and that is egregious. And so we should really stop. The other part about this is this. One last point. There's a lot of problems that we say we can't fix. And sometimes I believe that, and then sometimes I see data that says no. In 2 days after our former President Trump's conviction, they said his campaign raised $200 million.
Numbers are important, John.
$200 million.
Numbers are important.
And so,
John.
but here's the deal. You might say, well, there was just people with money to throw away. $70 million of it was small donations. This is $10, $20 amounts. What that tells me is we say we care about homelessness. The point in time count has come out for our community here in Topeka, and every year over the last 3 years, it's increased. This year, I think it was around 145 more people were homeless in the city of Topeka than last year. And we just had a presentation from a consultant that the city spent money and paid for 9 months to do a study about solutions around for our homeless brothers and sisters in our community. And it gave a great presentation. But then at the end, it was like, man, well, we don't have the funds to really act on this now. The city of Lawrence built a pallet city for $2.2 million with some startup funds, and they gave it to the shelter to start. You have, in the city of Kansas City, they have like Eden Village, where they have the tiny homes that they've built and different things of that nature. If small money donations are able to raise $70 million in 2 days, and overall we're able to raise $200 million in 2 days because we're passionate about somebody that we felt was treated unjustly in our justice system. It tells me that we don't care as much about our unsheltered brothers and sisters as we say we are. We're not as passionate about it because things that we're passionate about, we find a way to develop a solution for.
Yes, we do.
And that's why I want to hit on this. The argument shouldn't be whether President Trump, former President Trump, can be president or not with a felony. It should be what does his conviction now mean for those with felonies, we should be really slow to compare our stories and ourselves with Jesus.
Absolutely.
And 3, this whole situation should show what we can accomplish when we become passionate about something, truly passionate about something.
So what are you passionate about? We want to hear about it in the comments. Make sure that you like, comment, and that you share all those good things. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. We would love to see you. Let's continue this conversation in the intersection.